Hey yo, what is going on, everybody? Depraved Slash and we are back with another music reaction. I'm Depraved.
I'm Hellcat.
And together we are
Hella Depraved.
Yes, we are. So, Horseshoe Gang put out a new track. Now, what's funny, so I seen this pop up on Crook's Corner. I had no clue it was a Horseshoe Gang track.
Right. Versus a snippet.
I thought it might have just been like a talk.
Right.
Of some sort. Because it was like, I mean, I should have known it with it being like 3 minutes, because that's how long tracks typically run nowadays. But for whatever reason, I was just like,
it didn't register.
It didn't register.
Yeah.
I was like, Crook's got to, probably just Crook talking. Or Horseshoe Gang talking about something.
Right.
And then we reacted to Family Business last night.
Right.
And people were like, oh, dude, we had like the first two comments we got were like, oh man, you guys should check out Horseshoe Gang's The Mediators. And I was like, huh? So when I looked it up, it was what I had seen pop up. So here we are.
Here we are.
I am excited for this. I'm relatively sure Crook's not in it, because if it was, it would be a Family Business track. So this is just Horseshoe Gang.
Okay.
Regardless, these motherfuckers are hella
super talented. Yeah. Yeah.
And thanks to everyone that has finally started dropping Crook tracks they want us to check out.
Right. Not full albums. I mean, I get that you want us to react to the full album, but tracks are...
I will say the reason for all of a sudden hitting Crook like we are, so I didn't have an artist to build my channel around like everyone else does. Because a lot of these reaction channels, it's Eminem.
Shows them, yeah.
I do reviews for Eminem tracks, but unless it's something new, I can't react to Eminem. I have his first like 6.5, 7 CDs memorized word for word.
He really does, guys. Really.
And I don't feel right being like, hey, this is a reaction, and then like knowing.
And I've heard most of it. Yeah.
And then she's heard most of it. I mean, so I didn't have any real super lyrical people to really build it around. And the whole thing with Crook, I was kind of a fan of Crook when I was younger.
Right.
Crooked Eye, back when he was Crooked Eye, before he became King Crooked. And then I completely disappeared from rap for years. Because...
Minus Eminem.
Well, yeah, minus...
You kept your favorites.
Minus the artists that I listen to regularly. If I listen to... Like, if Eminem put out an album, I'd listen to Eminem. If T.I. put out an album, I'd listen to T.I. If Wayne put out an album, I'd listen to Wayne. And
you
again...
had your established favorites that you kept up with.
And if things weren't hitting the radio... Because to my understanding, there wasn't a lot of Crooked Eye songs hitting the radio. There were a few. So he wasn't as out there for me as so many others were.
And then we came back to him.
But then
with
somebody...
some of the more recent...
I was going to say, I've checked out a couple songs he was featured on with, like, Royce.
Right.
M, and things like that. And then somebody had asked me to react to a couple of individual Crook songs. And... it kind of was like, holy shit, where have I been?
Right.
So that's...
What have I been doing with my life? It's all been wrong.
Right, so that's why we're on this. And of course, with Crook, his brothers are involved as well.
Right.
So, and everything I've heard from Horseshoe Gang has been absolutely amazing. I've reacted to one of their tracks on a live. And then Family Business with all of them as a whole. I think there's another one that's like COB or something like that. I don't know exactly. Again, I'm not real familiar with it all, guys.
Right.
So we're getting there. I also missed out on pretty much all of Slaughterhouse that wasn't on an Eminem album.
Right.
That I have no excuse for.
No, okay. Yeah.
I just... Yeah, I don't have an excuse for it.
All right, well.
But...
Explanation's over. But that is why we're just now getting into it. Oh, and hip-hop is not my main genre. Love it. Right. Grew up on it. Again, it was more like Too Short, Bone Thugs and Harmony, DMX.
Boom, 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 boom.
Right. Who else was I big into? Those were like the three primaries. I'm going to pretend you didn't even say that.
True story. I actually liked Ja Rule when I was younger.
I don't even know that I mean, I'm sure I'd know some of his tracks. I know his name. I just...
Yeah, I liked Ja Rule when I was younger.
Look,
and then 50 fucked him up
I
lyrically.
like a fair amount of hip hop from the era of when I was growing up. But there's only some that I actually know, like their name plus the track name plus, like, I just don't bother to memorize that stuff normally.
Right. So anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Now that we've blown 5 minutes of talking, let's get into this.
At least we didn't swear. We got that 30 seconds out of the way.
Yeah, we did really well.
Yeah, good job.
All right.
Shit, that was hard.
So with that being said, again, this is Horseshoe Gang, the Mediators. We're going to slash up and break it down the best we can because we know we're going to miss some shit. Let us know what we miss. We try to get what we can. There will be lots of pauses. This will end up being probably like a 20-minute fucking reaction, 25.
Possibly.
And hey, with that being said, let's get it.
Some of the hostility is real and must be related to as such. We're angry and so are they, but it's only when we admit it that we can get anywhere. Right. I don't think a woman cares where she walks if you let her walk with you. And I don't think a man cares that a woman talks if she'll talk to him.
Black solidarity should be...
I didn't know if you had anything to say about the intro. Obviously, it's a Black Lives Matter track.
Right. I mean, I definitely agree with the whole, like, if we had a kind of more safe, diplomatic place to bring our grievances to and talk them out, a lot more would get solved as long as it wasn't constant, cyclical rhetoric.
Right.
With a mediator, which, you know, there's the name of the track. But I'm not sure I agree that everyone, men or women, would be, or race or whatever, would be happy to walk side by side in solidarity with anyone else. I don't think, I'm not taking it from, I mean, she was talking in context of like a woman talking to a man, woman walking with a man, so on and so forth. I'm taking it even further than that, just in general. I think that there will always be the people that are not looking for that.
There's always going to be people that want divisiveness?
Yes. Or division between us.
There's always going to be people that want to control.
Right. They want the power.
They want the power. That's human nature in general. And it sucks. It really does. But I can say what they're talking about, like, yes, if we did have a safe space that we could go and air our grievances and have a sit-down discussion to try and work things out, obviously that's what most of us want to have happen.
Right. And the equality between each other to have our grievances seen on the same sort of platform, but, you know, also she was talking about the woman walking next to the man versus, say, behind him. Again, there's always going to be the outliers that is not what they want, but in general, yeah, I think most of us do.
Right. So, the problem is the government doesn't want that.
No. Well, it's no good for profit.
And while we want, a lot of us, civilians, want peace and equality, the government doesn't. Right. And it's, honestly, I'm to the point where I feel like it's going to take physical action. Right. As we've seen with the riots and things like that, to get to where we need to be.
To root things out. Take it down to base level to build it back up again. Again, it's always going to be the problem with the people that already have power or that want power and already have the platform or the money to have some form of control over it. That is always going to be a problem, whether it's in the private sector or public. There's always going to be those people, and that's what the government is right now. So
Right.
yeah, that's a problem.
And I think the other thing that also worries me about the taking physical action stance is how long into that is it going to take before another country goes,
Hey. Right. Well, they're all watching us come apart at the seams right now anyway.
Right.
So, yeah.
Because then if another country comes in, we're all fucked.
Right. Right.
It's...
Yep. We're leaving ourselves open.
Very open.
Yeah.
Our government needs to figure some shit out. And quick.
Fear tactics work for them, though.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but it does.
I think the government underestimates the...
movement at this point.
The movement. I think they underestimate how many people have guns.
Right.
And are willing to go out and fight. Yeah, they might not all go have, like, army fatigues and things like that.
Right.
But the one thing that the underdog in America has always had, regardless of time frame,
It's weapons.
is tactics. Guerrilla warfare.
Bring what you have to the table. Let's get this shit done.
Right.
Yep.
That a woman talks if she'll talk to him.
Black solidarity should be the main goal. Some people feeling like No Name, some feel like Jermaine Cole. Okay, I know you think.
Okay, that's actually touching on No Name and J. Cole have had this back and forth.
Okay.
We reacted to the J. Cole track.
Right.
He was talking about a chick by the name of No Name.
Okay. We were unsure who it was.
Yeah, we were unsure of who it
time.
was during the reaction.
Right.
I've obviously Twitter-holed myself into figuring out what the fuck is going on.
And I have not.
So J. Cole was responding to No Name because I guess No Name has the stance of being tired of explaining things to people.
Right.
And J. Cole's like, if we don't understand though, help us.
Right.
And it was kind of a back and forth.
Okay. All right.
Go. Some people feeling like No Name, some feel like Jermaine Cole. Okay, I know you think this topic dead. For me, it ain't. I was born a middle child. It's easy for me to mediate now.
Right.
I was born the middle child because J. Cole had a middle child track.
And they are normally, yeah.
And
all right.
the middle
all
child
right.
is usually the
The
one that's like,
mediator,
y'all need to
yeah.
chill.
Right. Right. Also, I like how he, in the first line, black solidarity should be the goal.
Yes.
Like, and again, it's not just...
I think the overall end goal is human solidarity, but
I
for right
agree.
now,
Right.
it's black solidarity and getting equal rights
Right.
to our black brothers and sisters.
Right. And it's only hurting the movement, and this is not necessary. This is just human nature. It's not a personal critique on, it's just an observation. Anytime any group is fighting for their rights, like women's suffrage, let's say, there's always factions.
Right.
And all those factions do are hurt the movement in general.
Divide.
Yeah, because if they can't agree, then the people that are trying to support them or to keep them repressed are able to pick them off because they themselves are divided. So, yeah, it should be the goal, and it should be,
Topic dead, for me it ain't. I was born a middle child. It's easy for me to mediate. Now Cole, you got survivor's remorse. I understand your hurt, but when a black woke woman stand, you gotta stand with her. She said these niggas is quiet as church mice. Good point, she got one. But you made KOD, so social matters you never hide from.
Now, this is something I kind of both agree with and disagree with, because we had a conversation about this during J. Cole's track. I feel like people in the spotlight do need to be out saying more.
right.
But at the same time, J. Cole is always speaking on social matters. Always.
Right.
And he was actually out protesting.
Right.
So I also understand where J. Cole's coming from in that
He was already doing...
he's out there trying to do something.
Right.
And people are like, why aren't you speaking up? He's like, I am. I'm out there protesting.
Right.
Like, what more do you want from me?
Right. And I'm also speaking on social matters.
Right. And
Granted, he has the survivor's guilt because he made it.
Right.
and he doesn't feel like he's doing enough. But on the flip side, should he be belittled for, actually making something of himself, but also still speaking out? I mean, like, I don't think so. So,
and I feel like, because there are a lot of people that just couldn't get out to protest, and people sit here and say what they want, like, oh, people are making excuses, whatever. It's not always necessarily the case.
Right.
I would have been out there. I had my kids. I'm not taking my kids into that.
No.
With all the violence that was going on. Otherwise, I would have been out protesting myself. Right. But I did what I could from home in terms of speaking out during my reactions, saying things on Twitter, things like that. Whereas J. Cole is in the opposite boat. He was able to go out and do that. So I don't feel like he should catch as much shit as he did for not posting on Twitter.
Right.
And again, at the same time, I don't know if she was necessarily referencing Cole. There's actually been talks as well that she was actually referencing other people.
Other people, right.
And it wasn't necessarily meant for Cole, and Cole
he just took it
kind of took it personally. And
I also, I agree that maybe posting on Twitter, at least the pictures that I know that people were like, why didn't you post pictures and so on and so forth? He wasn't trying to promote himself.
No.
Just the cause. So that's why he was protesting, not snapping, selfies.
I mean, there were tons of other people that were getting pictures of him anyways.
Right. But I do understand what he's saying in terms of, like, when a woke woman speaks, you should be standing with her.
Right.
So, I mean, again, I'm a mediator. Not a middle child, but I am a mediator.
Right.
Mice, good point, she got one, but you made KOD, so social matters you never hide from. Sometimes we looking for answers, but stay quiet until we got some. The man who pointed out the false prophets wanna make sure that he's not one. I get it, go. Right. But yo, protecting our black women, that's job one. They hold us accountable for how we move until the job done. But fuck these.
And I think that could be said for all women as well. Again, not to take away from this.
No.
A good, strong woman should always be stood up for. And in this time, especially black women.
Right.
But
I like how he put woke, too. Like, there are some, and you said good, strong, but there are some very opinionated women that are not necessarily good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we know something like that. At least used to.
However, I agree with you. They should have backing.
Right.
But they, also do keep men, they hold a responsibility, keep them in line. And again, I'm not saying that that's a woman's role. I think that that should just be the role of anyone who cares for somebody else.
Right.
So.
Women, that's job one. They hold us accountable for how we move until the job done. But fuck these scary dudes like Terry Crews talking about black supremacy while fucking cops' guns is filling our con with hot ones. Yeah.
Did you see that today? There's actually bigger news today than it was a couple days ago.
I heard about the black supremacy, but not the...
Well, that's what I was talking about. So Terry Crews is out here saying things like, we need to be careful that, I don't remember the exact quote, that Black Lives Matter doesn't turn into Black Lives Matter More or some shit like that. Which I think Terry Crews intended well. Mm-hmm. But I almost feel like
phrase it well.
The way he phrased it took away from the movement.
Yeah.
Which is what everyone's so mad about.
Right. And I completely agree with that.
Right. But yeah, and that's what they're saying, you're out here saying what you're saying. We're the ones out here being killed.
Right.
You're in the limelight. You get pulled over. People will know who you are.
Right.
And it's just not going to happen. You're famous.
Right. And so now you pissed a whole bunch of people off, and we're going to take the heat for it. Good job.
Right.
Good job. Again, it's the divisiveness that he started this whole track with.
Crews talking about black supremacy while fucking cops' guns is filling our con with hot ones. Yeah, I met no name looking through the window of room 25. Heard blaxploitation and said to self, she really lied. Don't forget about me, Montego Bay. Oh, my favorite song is probably I'ma say Regal or Prayer Song. You my ace queen, every part of me is with you. You do work like a nurse, man, your artistry essential. I feel No Name side, but I feel J. Cole side too, you feel me? And it's unfair that we always look toward J. Cole and Kendrick to speak on this type of shit. They always do that. If you want to hear them speaking on what's going on now, go listen to their catalog. But anyway, divide and conquer, that's the way they hide the monster, ayy. Divide and conquer, ayy. That's the way they hide the monster, way. Honestly, I don't see what was so wrong with what was said in Cole's song, Pete. Honestly, I don't think Kendrick and Cole should be the only one that's told to speak. But Pete, look how they got you, live by their mantra, divide and conquer. Brother and sister like Kim against Damon, y'all at the weigh-ins, fighting like boxers, fighting each other is a distraction. We should go take up some fucking...
I like that.
I like how you came in with that, too. And I like what they're doing with this track.
Mm-hmm.
You've got
the brothers.
One of the guys talking about siding with her, and one of the guys talking about siding with him.
Well, I don't think that the first one was so much a siding as like he pointed out that he sees both sides, but the number one rule is to stand behind a strong woke woman.
Right.
And so that's the first job of a black man. And that's where he was going with that. I mean, he did say he's the mediator, he sees both sides. So again, it's not so much like siding as it is like that should be the number one stance. And then he's coming in saying like, guys, but also there is this side of it, which is J. Cole and Kendrick should not be the only people that are held responsible in the black community.
And they are the ones targeted most in terms of things
probably
like this,
because they're the ones that speak out against social injustice the most. They have the tracks, so people expect them to be considered woke and so on and so forth. And so and look, no celebrity ever lives up to every person's expectation of them. So the fact that J. Cole went out and protested is not going to be enough for some people. Right. But he, again, should not be the only one looked to for this. So far I've agreed with both of them.
Right.
Against Damon, y'all at the weigh-ins, fighting like boxers, fighting each other is a distraction. We should go take up some fucking action. We should just go kill the puppet master. We should continue to pump the black fist. Holla, divide and conquer. What does that mean? Let me lift my mic up. Saying all black lives matter, that shit's divisive. If you gay, buy a trans man, live your life, but they divide us when they mix our plights up, trying to civil rights us. I ain't mad at...
Ooh, that's a different take. An interesting one. I'm interested to see where he goes with it.
Okay.
Live your life, but they divide us when they mix our plights up, trying to civil rights us. I ain't mad at transgenders, I'm mad at the trans agenda. Gentrifying our demands, but to the man, you still a black nigga. And fuck painting the street with Black Lives Matter.
That's about where I thought he was going to go with it. And again, I can actually kind of agree with them on this. So the LBGTQ community has also been trying to take this opportunity to put their stuff out there more. And it's like, this is about black lives in general right now.
Right.
Like...
shouldn't matter your sexual orientation.
Right. We're all out here being killed by the cops. And you guys are more or less trying to, again... further your agenda. Further your separate agenda than what's going on right now.
Which is like an all lives matter tactic, except for a subgenre.
It's more of a Me Too tactic.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, again, it's just.
And again, being me, I can see their side of things too, because let's be honest. Let's be honest. America, as a country, is always going to find somebody to hate.
Right.
Within its own walls. For whatever fucking reason.
People in general do that.
Right. And what's going to happen is, after this clears up, or...
we're going to pick somebody else.
It's honestly probably going to be gay people again. Or lesbians, or LBGTQ period. Which is wrong in and of itself.
Right.
But, for, again, whatever reason,
or
America
we'll go
just...
back to the Hispanic immigrants.
Right.
Or the Cubans. Or...
Indians.
I mean, Native Americans,
I was actually talking red dot, not feather.
Well, I was talking, I got that, but then I was talking Native Americans, Asians. Right. It's a minority group, pick one. But again, it's what we were talking about when I brought up the like women's suffrage just as an example. That when you get all these different factions, because you're always going to have the fanatics that are so hardcore that no one can ever meet their demands.
Right.
You've got the kind of more general people that this is, you know, they believe it in strongly, but they believe in like all Black Lives Matter. And that's what they're going for. And they know that to parse that down into all these different categories is going to distract
and water down
the movement. And then you're going to have minority groups within that kind of faction off because they feel like and a lot of times they are looked upon even more poorly because they're minority groups within a minority group. I get it. I understand what they're doing, but again, it is distracting from the momentum of the main group, and those of the outliers, the people outside of that group that are trying to support them, eventually lose interest in supporting them because they can't keep up with all the different factions. They can't keep up with what are you asking for now? What are we, you know? So unfortunately, momentum gets lost and it goes back to who are we going to hate next? And nothing ever gets resolved to the point that it's resolved permanently. Yeah.
Which is where I was going with all
that. Okay.
The cops are still staying in the street with Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I'm more Malcolm X.
Ooh. That bar.
That was a good one.
Was not expecting that. I didn't rewind it, and like I usually do, and
I'm refraining from bad puns because this is a very important message, and it is, guys.
The cops are still staying in the street with Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I'm more Malcolm X and not MLK. Wait, but let me paraphrase a quote from Kwame Ture. He said the greatest lesson he ever learned from Dr. King was not to be attacking other black figures who just out here trying to lead. I'm trying to rally black people with the heart to fight, my nigga. I'm just trying to make you and I a Garvey type. 100 years of red, black, and green, but still a man has to bleed for some air. Body dead at the scene. We don't need the type of first responders that'll hurt Brianna, wasting taxpayers' money. Defund them. Them cops ain't worth $1. I don't care if looters go and rob the elite. We should have been to down them statues of Robert E. Lee. There's
now this is something we've talked about, just you and I.
Right.
I don't 100% believing in fully defunding the police.
Right.
Because here's the problem that's going to go on with that. If you completely defund the police, get rid of police, period. Anarchy.
Right.
Then it all of a sudden is just survival of the fittest.
Right. And honestly, people aren't as good as we would like them to be.
No.
Ever.
Some sort of authority.
Now, I get where they're going with it. Like,
right.
Everything is so corrupt that it needs to be burnt to the ground and started over. But there's a difference between eradicating what's in place and actually defunding it. Because you're still going to need funding for whatever new authority figure you're looking to put in place, or training new first responders, or however you're planning on this working. But there has to be a system in place because, people as a whole, unfortunately, we can't be trusted. And also emergencies that aren't crime related will still need to be addressed. Like, what's going to happen when somebody needs just EMT service, firefighter service, all of that stuff still needs to be taken care of.
Again, I do believe in starting it over.
Yeah, I can see that.
Get rid of the crooked officers.
I can see that.
And actually bring people in to do full psych evals. Mm-hmm. There's things you can do to figure the real side out about people.
Right.
And then aside from just that, there needs to be laws in place. Police should not be protected for killing people.
Right.
Again, if it's a just cause, I get it.
Right.
If dude's done killed 2 or 3 people, won't put the gun down.
Right.
Regardless of what race you are.
There's a problem. Yeah.
I have no problem with you being killed on the spot.
Right. That's just us, though.
Because I'm sorry, if you've killed other people, in my opinion, you don't deserve to live.
You lost your rights.
That's just my opinion. And there's going to be a few people who probably get really mad about that. I'm not humanitarian by any means in that aspect.
Right.
But all this senseless killing for little things like
a traffic stop,
or robbing a liquor store, and not even like
I don't know,
not even a held up robbery.
The guy that was sleeping in a Wendy's parking lot.
Right. It's like people being killed by white cops for
no reason.
No reason.
Yeah. But yeah, I can see where they're. But again, like I said, you can't defund.
Because if you defund, there's no way to actually.
That's two separate things.
Right.
Tearing down the system and starting over, I agree with. Getting rid of the funding that's in place, no, because you need that to.
You're going to need it to bring new people on.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, nobody's going to do it for free.
Right. Especially with the danger that they serve, that they are faced with every day from legitimate threats, people.
Right.
You know, people that are on meth, people that are actually violent, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Go and rob the elite. We should have been took down them statues of Robert E. Lee. There's no justice, so how could there possibly be peace? I swear to God, while I was writing this song, I got stopped by police. I could have been the next Rayshard Brooks. So until the day y'all look at us as humans, artists like us can't take a day off. Look.
Man, I swear to God, in these trying times, it's so hard to put out music, man. But Family Business album is coming. Kenny mixtape, yes. Guys' hands is coming. Shoe Gang got more shit coming. You know what I mean? Y'all come fuck with Shoe Gang. Big homie Madman. 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Judge's table, man. We still out here working. God.
Yeah, it's got to be hard to keep your creative juices going.
With all the insanity.
Right. And not make you could, but not make every single track about the social injustices going on right now. Like I said, you could, but it's so devastating that a lot of people are just so depressed over it or angry over it that it doesn't translate to creativity all that well.
I really enjoyed that track.
I liked the vibe, the beat, all of that was great. The message I think is super important.
Yes.
I liked them coming at it from. They all agreed, and here's the thing though, like they were in agreement. That's all these brothers were in agreement. They just phrased it differently.
They spoke on slightly different things.
Right, and I wish we were all a bit more like that.
I think people in general would be better off if people were able to hear the other side of a situation and understand.
I think if we were all taught to be listeners better, I mean, and there's so many parts to being a good listener, but one of the most important is to shut up and actually let the person talk. The second part of that is don't be phrasing your answers in your head while they're still talking. Because if you're busy thinking of what you're going to say in response, you're not actually listening. No. Also, you never know where someone's going to go with what they're saying. I mean, you could be thinking they're going to go in one direction and they could go in a completely different direction. Mediators, who are normally on the same tangent, but yeah, we digress a lot. But mediators are always a good idea. I think part of the most aggravating part of this is, while we've said that so many people would be willing to do this, sit down and talk in a safe place, maybe with mediators, whatever, getting shit done is the problem.
And, well, that's the problem with our government right now, too. Because it's a two-party system, and it's always one party is dominating one thing, another party is dominating another thing.
Right.
So when it's time to try and get laws and things into place, there's always butting of heads.
Right. There's always a block somewhere.
Like,
someone blocks this movement, then they block that, or...
and it's why I hate the party system. I definitely believe political parties were made as well to be divisive.
They were.
Because
I get the concept of checks and balances for sure, but the problem is when you have 2 versus say 3. Right. You know, I mean that third person or that uneven number always kind of helps in terms of they could go one way or another. But we've kind of created the joke independent party, which has never actually been a legitimate.
I think we've only had one ever president out of that.
What I'm saying, it's a joke. Because
it was never, time ago.
It was never really funded. We've never really had great runners for it. They never get sponsors, which, by the way, I think sponsors should be eradicated. I think our presidents should be chosen on merit, not money.
I agree 100% with that. I don't think how much money you have should determine anything in your presidential run.
No.
At all.
None. Whatsoever. You know, I mean, this idea of sponsors is fucking ridiculous. But yeah, anytime you have 2 parties, that's an equal amount of vote. So they're just going to cockblock each other the entire time. It's just how it works. But I think so many people, you know, we feel like we've spoken and we've tried, and then of course, you know, riots happened because they spoke how much 400 years.
And what's funny is it's not even just that. Most of the riots started because of the police shooting shit into the crowds, whether it's rubber bullets or gas or whatever's been shot in the crowds. Period. Like
they've been driving cars into them.
Right. Like you can't expect people to not fight back at that point.
Right.
And honestly, I'm surprised it hasn't divulged into something much worse in a lot of places.
Well, and then again, I do understand that that faction of people that are complete assholes, by the way, that decided to take advantage of peaceful protests and go in and fuck shit up and steal and light shit on fire because they felt it was a good opportunity. And of course, those are rioters versus the protesters, which causes the peaceful protests to devolve into this. And the cops feel like, well, the bad cops feel like they have now the opportunity to do this. It's a horrible cycle. Horrible.
When I told people in the beginning, it's something I tweeted to Crook had actually asked how people were doing amidst all this when it first started. And I told him, I was like, to be honest, I'm afraid for people's lives right now.
Yeah.
Again, this was a few weeks ago.
Right.
But when everything was going on, I was like, look, I'm afraid for people's lives. I'm afraid for people who might not have jobs anymore. Again, it's not the companies. I give a fuck about the companies.
Right.
Companies are billion-dollar industries, but you're talking about there's people that like might have needed that paycheck next week in order to pay rent, and now they might end up homeless.
Or their kids
or they got
that
kids
depended on the school meals for any food.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where my mind was. My mind was on the people that
are going to suffer because of this.
Yeah, are going to suffer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, if it's happening in black communities, it's black people suffering.
Right. Right. There's so many people with the economic problem and the quarantine and yada yada that are suffering right now. But then also all of the aggravation that's taking place is causing even more racial tension towards the black people.
Right.
And it's just, well, and, you know, I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. And it's always the wrong people that end up suffering because of it.
Yep.
That's history.
We've gone on long enough, ladies and gentlemen.
We could go on much longer because we feel strongly about this, and we love the track, and I really liked how it was done. But we'll let you guys go. Because,
if you guys even made it this far. So, if you like the video, slash the like button, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, comment down below where y'all want us to go next. Let us know what you guys liked, didn't like about what we had to say. And again, we're okay with people disagreeing with things.
Keep it respectful.
Just keep it respectful. We're not
You're
hard
entitled
people.
to your own opinion. Just
we're not hard people to get along with.
Just keep it respectful.
Right. So with that being said, we love y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Cannot wait to see you to pray people later. Peace.